Welcome to the Arirang Code. In this presentation, we will uncover the ancient spiritual lineage of the Hanminjok, explore the global mission of K-culture, and reveal the hidden theological roots behind BTS's historic 2026 comeback. Let's begin with a global phenomenon rooted in antiquity. On March 21, 2026, BTS makes their highly anticipated return after 4 years, with BTS The Comeback Live Arirang at Gwanghwamun Square. The intent behind this choice is significant. Anchoring their comeback at Korea's most historically important site is a deliberate move to emphasize the group's origins and identity. The scale of this event is immense. 260,000 attendees will gather, with a global broadcast on Netflix, featuring a 14-track album led by the single Swim. This begs a crucial question. Why name the definitive comeback of the world's biggest group after an ancient folk song? This brings us to the linguistic mystery of an ancient anthem. Conventionally, Arirang is universally known as a Korean folk song symbolizing sorrow, endurance, and reunion during national trials. However, there's a linguistic anomaly despite over 3,600 variations. The core refrain Arirang, Arirang, Arario has no definitive literal translation in modern Korean. This suggests a hidden layer. The true etymological root has been obscured, and the lyrics do not simply mourn a lost lover instead. They encode the collective memory of an ancient eastward migration. To decode the anthem of the East, we must look at its ancient components. The root al connects to an ancient word for God, el or creator, tied to the sky and origins. Irang is a Korean particle meaning with or together. When combined, Arirang translates to with God. Therefore, the refrain Arirang passes over the pass is not just about a physical journey, but crossing the mountain passes with God. This is profoundly significant. Arirang is the oldest surviving hymn of a nomadic people preserving their faith. Our journey takes us back to the divergence at Babel. Following the Great Flood, humanity converged at the Tower of Babel, which led to the confusion of languages and the scattering of nations, as described in Genesis 10. The lineage of Shem passed to Eber, whose descendants faced a monumental split in human destiny. Genesis 10:21 cryptically refers to God as the father of all the children of Eber. Eber had 2 sons, Peleg and Joktan, setting the stage for 2 distinct destinies. These are the 2 branches of Eber. Peleg's descendants, known as Israel, were the first runners, responsible for the origin of the gospel. Their geographic destiny was the Middle East, the crossroads of antiquity, and their cultural vehicle was written scripture, the law, and prophets. Their modern activation involves the preservation of the physical Holy Land. In contrast, Joktan's descendants, the Hanminjok, are identified as the final runners, destined for the completion of the gospel. Their geographic destiny was the Far East, the final eastern edge. Their cultural vehicle involved oral and cultural traditions, like Arirang and its symbols, leading to a modern activation of global cultural dissemination through K-culture and BTS. Now let's trace this golden thread eastward. The migration began at Mesha in Mesopotamia, the starting point to avoid the idolatry of Babel. The transit involved the Pamir and Altai Mountains, the very mountain passes sung about in Arirang. Interestingly, the name Pamir derives from ancient Korean linguistic roots. Their destination was Sifar, stretching from Siberia to Korea. Genesis 10:30 states they settled in the eastern hill country. They journeyed until they met the Eastern Sea, establishing Gojoseon, the first Korean kingdom. Next, we reframe our understanding of the dolmen, the stones of the ancestors. There's a misconception that these were merely prehistoric tombs. Over 40,000 exist in the Korean peninsula, the highest concentration globally, suggesting a deeper purpose. The architectural truth reveals that the flat top served as a functional platform, elevated for sacrifices and rituals dedicated to the heavens. Furthermore, excavations have revealed artifacts like bronze mirrors and bells featuring 8-point sun motifs. These were not grave goods, but tools for aligning with the sun and performing rituals to the creator. Encoded memory can also be found in the national standard, the Korean flag. The central light represents the creator's light, restoring a void world. The 8 trigrams or palgwai are historically connected to the memory of the flood survivors. This visual symbolizes the living ark. It encodes the specific memory of Noah, his wife, his 3 sons, and their wives, 8 individuals who preserved humanity, a profound memory carried eastward by Joktan's descendants. We also find living relics along the migration route. First, the Flora Mugungwa, the Rose of Sharon. Originally native to the Middle East, this flower was intentionally planted along the eastward migration route. Its white petals and red centers symbolize purity, bloodshed, and a heavenly destination. Second, the white-clad people. For millennia, the Hanminjok strictly insisted on wearing pristine white clothing. This was a profound cultural insistence on representing themselves as a pure, chosen people devoted to the heavens. Let's now decode this heritage grid, contrasting traditional views with recovered meanings. For the anthem ㅅArirang, traditionally seen as a folk song of sorrow, is now recovered as a hymn of migration, meaning with God. The architecture, dolmen, traditionally considered prehistoric tombs, are recovered as altars constructed for sacrifices to the Creator. The standard teguki, traditionally interpreted as philosophical duality, is recovered as the encoded memory of the Great Flood and its 8 survivors. Finally, the Flora Mugungwa, traditionally symbolizing national resilience, is recovered as the transplanted Rose of Sharon, marking the sacred trail eastward. This brings us to the geopolitical destiny of the second wing. By settling at the farthest eastern edge of the continent, Joktan's descendants positioned themselves at the Pacific Gateway. This was not an accident of history, but precise geopolitical positioning. While the Middle East served as the crossroads of antiquity to birth the message, the Far East now serves as the hyper-connected node perfectly positioned for the massive, rapid global dissemination required in the modern era. This is about activating the golden thread. The ancient spirit of Hongik Ingan, which means to broadly benefit humanity, and the ethos of Arirang, with God, lay dormant, awaiting the right vehicle. Modern K-culture is precisely the activation of this ancient mandate. The global rise of Korean culture is not a coincidence of algorithms, it is the fulfillment of a millennia-old mission. The profound global resonance of K-pop, particularly BTS's themes of hope, resilience, and unity, is the modern translation of the Arirang spirit. This culminates in the resonance wave at Gwanghwamun in March 2026. The core of this event is identity and roots, reclaiming the ancient lineage and the true meaning of Arirang. The medium is the 14-track album, using tracks like Swim to broadcast endurance despite life's challenges. The reach will be global, with Netflix Live and a world tour comprising 82 shows across 34 stops, transcending language to heal modern isolation. The ultimate impact is global empathy, fulfilling the role of the final runners by uniting a fractured world through shared emotional resonance. Gwanghwamun truly stands as the crossroads of antiquity and tomorrow. When BTS steps onto the stage there on March 21, 2026, they are closing a historical loop. Standing at the historical heart of the Hanminjok, they will broadcast the spirit of Arirang to millions globally. The golden thread remains unbroken. The ancient hymn of the mountain passes has now become the anthem of the global stage. We extend an invitation to research. The intersection of K-pop, ancient history, and biblical theology offers a revolutionary lens through which to view modern cultural phenomena. The rise of the Hanminjok as a cultural superpower invites objective, continuous research from scholars, theologians, and thought leaders. The story of Arirang is no longer just a Korean memory, it is a global legacy waiting to be fully understood.